there's only really one reason why I watched War for the Planet of the Apes, and that's because of Woody Harrelson. I knew I was going to watch this, so I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and neither of which I cared for. I thought the stories were very weak, the narratives were very, very slow. CGI, gorgeous, visually stunning films, great performances, but the stories were, while great in theory, in my opinion, really poorly executed. So I wasn't exactly enthusiastic about War for the Planet of the Apes. Nevertheless, I went in with an open mind, and I can now say that the same applies. Really, really weak story, very, very slow, but visually gorgeous. This was released in 2017. It's directed by Matt Reeves. It's written by Mark Baumbach and Matt Reeves, and we have a cast including, of course, Woody Harrelson. We have Andy Serkis, Steve Zahn, Judy Greer. Great cast, great performances, great CGI, stunning, stunning film. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. However, the story is very, very, very slow. And that's not to say that some of the slower moments don't have benefits. Some of them do. But I was expecting so much more from this because I kind of gave the other films not necessarily a free pass to be slow, but I kind of assumed they existed to build us up to this epic war where we have the apes against the humans. And yeah, basic premise. But nothing happens for a tremendous amount of time. And when things do happen, they're not that good. Again, visually they look great, but it's not very entertaining. It's very, very slow. And I feel like all three of the previous two films and this film could have been condensed into one film. There is absolutely no need for it to be three films because nothing happens for a long time in all three of the films. Maybe two films at a push, but we definitely did not need three films to tell this story. The third film is just tremendously slow, and I was expecting so much more. As I said with the previous films, certainly with Dawn, I kind of thought, okay, maybe this was building up to something epic, something colossal, and they really needed that third film to stand on its own, and it just didn't. The story is exceptionally weak, and yeah, visually it looks great. The music's good. The music is by Michael Giacchino. I apologise if I've mispronounced that. And the performances are very good. Absolutely no problems with anything there. It's just the story. It falls very, very flat. Not a lot happens. And when things do happen, I found it to be tremendously dull. So unfortunately, I don't think it's a good film. If you are visual driven, personally I'm driven by narratives and then by characters, but I know a lot of people love watching films for the visual quality, and that for them is a big pull factor. And if that's the case, then yes, I think you will enjoy a lot of aspects of this. And certainly, had I seen it on the big screen, I would have been tremendously bored, but visually I imagine it would have been a real experience. But unfortunately for me, and I know for many people, that's not enough. A lot of us need a good narrative and often are not that bothered about the visual quality, as long as the visual quality is fine. But obviously I can really appreciate just how gorgeous this is to look at. But the narrative is incredibly lacking. There's so much fluff. In fact, it's not even so much that there's fluff. There definitely is fluff. But for there to be fluff, at least something needs to happen. And for a lot of this, it just isn't. It's not there. So I was very disappointed. Actually, that's not true, because I didn't have very high expectations. To be disappointed, I had to expect something decent. I guess, in general, from the three films, I was disappointed. Yes, I liked watching Woody Harrelson in this. Everybody gave a really good performance. Visually, it is very impressive, but the story needs a lot of work to be entertaining, to be emotional, to be effective. There are a few moments here and there, but in general, War for the Planet of the Apes is pretty much the same as the previous two. They all could have been condensed into one film, and it could have been a very solid, action-packed, moving, emotional journey from start to finish. Maybe two films that were slightly shorter in length. This is over 2 hours. It's incredibly long. And maybe they could have made two films of about an hour and a half each, or one maybe slightly longer film. But at the end of the day, War for the Planet of the Apes is a nice idea, but it's terribly executed, visually gorgeous, great performances, but ultimately I found it to be tremendously boring.